The only intervention they had them do was slow down their breathing, and their symptoms were rapidly reduced by a profound level, even within a year later, after 4 weeks of this training. So this is what happens when the body comes into a state of homeostasis, where it's able to do what it's supposed to do. Just look at the top 20 maladies affecting the mass population right now. Metabolic problems, diabetes, anxiety issues, hypertension. I mean, I can keep going. Gut problems, GERD, anxiety, panic, asthma. They're all related to the ways in which you breathe. That's not to say all of these conditions are caused by improper breathing, but the reason why we have them has been a contributor to poor breathing, especially in sleep apnea, which we know can cause metabolic problems like diabetes, which to me just completely blew my mind. But if you think about breathing as the anchor to all of the different systems to the body, especially inflammation, and if you're doing that improperly 25,000 times a day, your body's going to compensate, because we're really good at doing that. You're going to stay alive, but you're not going to stay healthy. And that's exactly what's happened to us right now. I mean, just sleep apnea and snoring alone, people think it's cute that there's an infant snoring, or that, my husband snores, I gotta sleep on the couch. This is someone who's struggling to breathe during a third of his or her life. If you don't think that's gonna have a downstream effect on their health, you're crazy. And so much science is now coming out showing that. Even though we've known it for 50 years, you'd be hard-pressed to find a researcher who says that's not going to affect your health in some big ways. You get a book on pranayama, there's 300 different ways of breathe, all with these crazy names. Like, where do I start? I just try to focus on the umbrella items here, right? You're going to want to breathe slowly. You're going to want to breathe through your nose. You're going to want to breathe less. Many of us are going to want to breathe less to get more. And, you're going to want to chew your food. That's a whole other thing, because that can help open up your airway. But Patrick McEwen, pretty well-known breathing therapist, told me this, which totally blew my mind. He found studies where people who breathe at a rate of about 20 breaths a minute, so the average, what's considered normal, is 12 to 18 breaths a minute. So 20 breaths a minute is maybe even on the low end for populations with anxiety and asthma. All they're doing is bringing air here and getting it out. That means they can only use 50% of that air, okay? Because they're filling up their throats, they're filling up their mouths, they're filling up the bronchus. All of these areas can't participate in gas exchange. So they're just wasting air, bringing it in, bringing it out. Only 50% at that rate when you're taking it 6 liters a minute. If you slow that down to 12 breaths per minute, you're taking in 70%, okay? That's how much more efficient you are. 20% difference. Incredible. If you breathe at a rate of 6 breaths a minute, you have an 85% efficiency in your breathing. So that's how much more oxygen you're going to be able to get, which means you can breathe less while getting more oxygen, which again that's the key, whether or not you're sitting on a couch and want to recover, or whether or not you're really working out. Because if you're breathing in lines with your metabolic needs, that means you're going to have that much more energy to go even further. If your heart rate is lower at states of zone 3, zone 4, whatever, then you can push your heart rate even more, go further and farther. And I say 5.5 because it's easy to remember. 5.5 inhale, 5.5 exhale, 5.5 breaths a minute. That's how it all works out. So when we do this, we are allowing just the right amount of oxygen to come in at just the right amount of time with the least effort. So that's why the heart rate will slow down. That's why circulation will increase. And our bodies want this. To constantly be pushing our bodies, especially in states of recovery, is a bad idea. So I think that general gauge, and we've seen this in studies where they've taught people with panic and asthma who traditionally breathe way too much. I'm talking off the charts, 20 breaths a minute through the mouth. The only intervention they had them do was slow down their breathing, and their symptoms were rapidly reduced by a profound level, even within a year later, after 4 weeks of this training. So this is what happens when the body comes into a state of homeostasis, where it's able to do what it's supposed to do.